All right, YouTube, we're live here on the Allen Hour, a day removed from the Tampa Bay Rays series down at the Trop for the first time in, they said, over 600 days. It was not the outcome that the Yankees were hoping for, not the outcome that us two, Andrew, were looking for. It was a sweep for the Tampa Bay Rays, 3 games in which the Rays scored 5 runs in every game, and the Yankees scored 3, 4, and 4. And it just was not the outcome that we were all looking for. The bats woke up at times, went to sleep at big times as well, which we kind of talked about before the series, just how the bats were cold in that A's series. So a bit of improvement there, but it was a little lackluster, to say the least. Some nice pitching performances from Max Fried, but at the bottom line, it just wasn't enough. And the Rays, Andrew, through small ball, through timely hits, they were able to not only get the wins, they were able to just flat out get the sweep over the Yankees this weekend.
Yeah, just the sucky weekend. I mean, it's not what you wanted to see. We discussed on the last episode, like how badly division games are important, especially like even early in the season. I know it's still April, and obviously I'm still going to take the side that it's early. I mean, we're only 8-7, right? Only 13 games, or that's bad math, 15 games. So, obviously it's still early, but the division games do matter because there's less of them now, right? We play every single team in the MLB, which means there's less division games to be played. And who knows? I don't think the Rays are the ones favored to win the AL East at the end of the year, but they're a pesky team again. And you never know who's going to be at the end. So these wins are important. And it felt like there were times the Yankees, it felt like in every game, really, they could have won. They had guys on base, winning runs on base in every single game. So it felt like there was a possibility for sure. And even when they got timely hits in that second game with Jose Caballero, it still wasn't enough. So yeah, just a bad series overall.
And the first game, which to me, like, I guess for the season long look, it was important to see how Luis Gil came out. First action of the year for him. And honestly, I rewatched some of his pitching this morning just to be refreshed, just to kind of hone in on how he looked specifically, since the game was played Friday. He didn't look terrible. Like, I mean, the control's not great. He did have, his usual like 3 walks. But at the same time, you rewatch, other than the Yandy Diaz 2-run bomb, which kind of sucked because the Yankees were able to get to a 2-0 lead in that first inning, able to kind of build some momentum, and then he gave it right back. But from there on out, a lot of their runs came off of infield little dribblers, bunts, hits. Like, they just played small ball. And I feel like Luis Gil actually didn't look terrible for his first outing. It obviously wasn't good enough. 4 innings, 88 pitches is not ideal at all, but I didn't think he looked terrible. I mean, all 3 games, the Yankees, they were winnable, at the end of the day. So it's not like the pitching gave up 9 runs one game or the offense scored, 12 runs one day. It was very much so games where they were into it at the very end, and it just came down to timely hitting, timely pitching appearances, and they just couldn't get it done. But I thought Luis Gil looked decent for his first outing. I didn't think he looked terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of who he is, right? He's not gonna he's usually gonna have some walks in there. His control is not the best. His velocity is still not where it was like a couple years ago when he won Rookie of the Year. So he's still getting back to some things. Obviously, 88 pitches, like you mentioned, in 4 innings. That's not good enough, but that's kind of the pitcher that he is. If he's not really dialed, he's not going to give you 6, 7 innings. No pun intended. But yeah, it's something that was at least encouraging in his first start, that he didn't go up there and absolutely blow it up. Like you said, the Rays obviously dinked and dunked a lot more than they did in the next few games. So yeah, it was okay. I would like to see a little more strikeout stuff from him. I feel like ever since his velocity's been down since he won Rookie of the Year, he hasn't had like those huge strikeout stretches that we were used to seeing, but hopefully he can get back to that at some point this year.
I think a lot of it has to do with the velocity, like you're talking about. It just needs to get up to where it should be. And again, it's his first start of the year in the majors. He had some work in AAA, so we'll see if he can kind of get himself ramped up with the velocity and that kind of stuff. But again, this is not an issue in the now. It will be in 3-4 starts from now if the velo is still down, if he still can't control, his walks. He's given up 3-4 a game. So we'll have this conversation. We'll put a pin in it because I do think that the Luis Gil conversation will be an important one towards the year's end, because we'll have the debate whether he should be in the bullpen, if he should be a starter, and, mixed in with other guys like Weathers, Clark Schmidt, who might be coming back later in the year, right? You got Rodon and Cole obviously on track to come back. So we kind of had that conversation last episode where we talked about the potential of having Weathers maybe in the bullpen for the playoffs or Luis Heel. I think it just all depends on how everybody kind of looks at some point this year, like mid-season, when the rotation starts to get more and more healthy. So not a great start for Luis Heel to make the case to keep him as a starter. I don't really think many of us thought he would have a spot, but I do think that there is one to play for. I think it's up to him and Weathers really to potentially duke things out. So we'll see how it unfolds, but not the greatest of starts that you would want to see from Luis Heel. And again, the Yankees did get out to that 2-0 lead. I thought the Judge single was nice. Then he steals second base, and then he gets to third base on the overthrow to second base from the catcher. And Bellinger with a timely sac fly to the wall in right field, almost maybe like 5 feet away from a 2-run shot. So that was good baseball to see. And then they were able to, with Ahmed Rosario, get the fortuitous triple, thanks to Chandler Simpson, able to score a run, tack on 2. So the first inning was nice to see. Ahmed Rosario had a nice game that day as well. He was 2 for 4, and he was later in the game, went up against a righty in the 9th, was able to get a single, get on base. So I was pleased with some things in this series, although they didn't lead to wins. If we're looking at a grand scheme of things for the long-term picture, especially for my case for just I'm done with McMahon. Like Ahmed looked pretty good against the righty in a big spot in the 9th where they needed base runners. And I understand it's just one game, but it is promising. It's looking like he is starting to kind of figure it out at the plate. And I hate to keep having this conversation with McMahon because it is just April, but for someone like me who wants Rosario to get more opportunity, every time he seemingly gets it, he is taking advantage of it.
Yeah, he had a pretty good series. I mean, even in the final game, which we'll get to in a second, he ripped a ball that could have been a game-tying home run. It just came up just short. And then the Yankees obviously weren't able to close it out. But yeah, he's looked pretty good, and he's just juiced, man. I mean, like he just fires up the whole team, even when he's not playing. He's always like the first one out of the dugout. So it would be a nice player, like if he does come around and really starts to show that like he's a starting caliber player. Like it would be a nice guy to have in that spot. I did think McMahon's at bats were like slightly better this series. I mean, that's not saying much. They were like bottom of the barrel the rest of the season. But yeah, a couple guys. I mean, Ahmed was really good. Jose Caballero obviously woke up in game 2. So there were a couple things at the bottom of the lineup. I'm like, okay, like this didn't look totally feeble. But yeah, 4 runs a game. That's just like not. I mean, you would think with the Yankees pitching and how they've been pitching, you score 4 runs twice and 3 runs once, you're probably going to win one of those games. It just didn't shake out that way with the extra innings in game 2. And yeah, just got to score a little bit more, maybe get out to leads a little bit more often. Obviously, they did get out to the lead, like you mentioned, in game 1, but still kind of like this weird triple that was kind of handed to us. So we'll see how they respond with a big 4-game set coming up.
And the thing too to think about outside of Ben Rice, there has not been consistent production. And even in game 1, they put Ben Rice into a pinch hit spot. He hits a solo shot, right? So the offense had those 2 runs in the first inning and they couldn't do anything the rest of the game until Ben Rice got a pinch hit at bat late in the game. My issue is with the offense is that it's not like they're facing, the 2019 Houston Astros on a weekend where they're facing prime Verlander, prime Garrett Cole, and it's just, luck of the draw with pitching. You should be able to win a game when you face 34-year-old Steven Matz, Nick Martinez, and Drew Rasmussen. We all thought it was going to be McClanahan. It ended up being Rasmussen. You should be able to get a win in one of those 3 games. And you look at Steven Matz's final line, 5 innings, just 2 hits. Right. I mean, I think both those hits were in the first inning. Right. So they didn't get a hit the rest of the game, didn't get a run the rest of the game with Matt's in, struck out 7, walked 2, and the Rays pitching as a whole struck out 12 and just walked 2 in that first game. So just a lot of outs that didn't move runners if guys were on. Just it's one of those things where, to me, again, it's not like they're facing these really, really good pitchers, even though Matt's, I'm not saying he's bad. It's just you're not facing the cream of the crop of starting pitching in the league. And it just seemingly looks like they just can't figure out how to, when they get guys on base, they can't bring them in. And then there's innings where they just, it's a 5-pitch inning, it seems, and they're out of it like that. And all of a sudden, Freed's back on the mound.
You're 100% right. And to me, it doesn't even have to result in wins. Like, obviously, Yankees got swept. I'm sure that's going to happen another time this season. It's like they just couldn't even put like a good offensive effort together against some of these guys. Like, if they lost a game, maybe 8-7, but hey, they had 8 hits and 6 runs against the Steven Matz or something like that, you can be like, okay, at least the offense rolled, pitching had a bad day, whatever. But yeah, they've been struggling against not so good pitching, which is something that they've dominated. The constant like theme of every Yankee season is they really score a lot of runs on bad pitching. And then on good pitching, they're not so good. So when they get to the playoffs, they're kind of slumpish because all they did all season was hit on bad pitching. And now, right now, currently, they're not even able to do that. I also think there's something to Judge not going quite yet. Like, Judge is kind of working at bats more. He's getting on base more, but his extra base hits now. He did hit a 2-run home run in the ninth in game 3, but his extra base hits haven't been there yet. I just feel like he's kind of missing just a little bit. He's not back to what we're normally used to. And I feel like if he was there this series, we could be talking about a series winner, even a sweep, because that's how close I feel like a lot of these games were, just like one at bat away or one big hit away. So I feel
Right.
like him, when he's kind of not fully there, it magnifies everybody else. And yeah, this is kind of the offense they are if he's not really going.
And to your point, in both games 1 and 2, I know for a fact he had at bats where the guy in front of him was able to get on base with no outs, and he struck out both those times.
Yeah.
The one time was an ABS challenge that the Rays got correct, and the other time I think he struck out swinging. So those are big at bats in the sense of just even we're not asking for home runs. We're just asking pass the baton off to the next guy, or hit a soft ground ball, let the guy advance, right? But strikeouts don't help you anywhere. The guy stays at first and there's an out. So it's not even productive outs in that case. So yeah, you're right. I think in large part, yes, Judge needs to get going. But again, it's not just Judge, because we've talked about how seemingly it's just Ben Rice that's really the only consistent contributor.
Yeah.
Stanton has been very good. I will say, like, he had a couple nice games this series as well, where again, that 9th inning in the first game, he got a single to lead it off. And he got on base. Then Ahmed got the single to make it first and second. But then in that inning, it's just no one else could show up. Jazz hit a ground ball. Luckily, he was able to run it out. And then it was first and third. He stole second. And now you're looking at second and third with one out in the 9th, down 2 runs. And not that, again, I'm going to really blame Boone, but the big discussion after game 1 was sticking with Grichuk in that spot, Andrew, against the righty. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
It's actually something after the game, right? You're talking about game. I'm confusing like game 1 and game 2.
Game 1, they had second and third with one out in the 9th, and I believe Grichuk had 3 at bats that game, and they kept him in for his at bat in the 9th to face the righty.
Yeah. So I believe actually Boone, after the game, basically came out and said, like, he was asked, like, why not go to Goldschmidt in that spot, and he was basically just like, you know what, maybe I should have. Which is something we don't really see from Boone a lot. So I actually it was nice to see that, nice to see him take some accountability, because maybe he thinks that internally sometimes, but usually he won't out and say that, right? Because especially for Randall Grichuk, right? He wants to be up in that spot. He wants to know that the manager, if he leaves him in, wants him to be up at that spot. So him kind of saying he wishes almost that he went to Goldschmidt in that spot was interesting to me. I think Goldschmidt would have been the move. I think going forward, that's what you're going to see. If you have a JC Escara in there or a Randall Grichuk, just go to the guy off the bench that's got it done for 10 plus years.
Yeah. And that's kind of the mindset that I had on our last episode that kind of bit them in the ass. I forget the exact at bat. Was it it was Escara. In the 9th inning, they put him in. That's right. We had that whole discussion. So I think for the same reasons, put the guy in. And not to say that Grichuk doesn't have the experience. He definitely has more than Escara, and I think he would be second on the pecking order of the 3. But if you have Goldschmidt available in a spot like that, even against the righty, and he's a more bat in the ball kind of guy too.
Right.
My same argument for Ahmed Rosario over McMahon at this point. It's just, I think that's where in a spot like that, you need a more productive out if there's going to be one. I forget, but I assume they pinch ran for Stanton in that 9th inning. There's no way they had him on base, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So you're talking about a ground ball to the right side. You probably score a run there, right? I mean, you got just someone that can put the ball in the play, and you score a run most likely.
Yeah, the reason Grichuk was in the game in that spot was because earlier in the game he pinch hit for Stanton, I'm pretty sure. Or no, he started?
Stanton started the inning with a single.
Right.
I'll go back and
Okay. Yeah.
look.
Right. Yeah. Because there was a game, maybe it was game 2 that I'm getting confused, where Randall Grichuk did come in the middle of the game for Stanton. But I guess that
Okay.
wasn't because Stanton was Grichuk was starting game 1. So I'm getting my games mixed up a little bit here. But to go back to kind of
Oh no,
the
I'll
conversation.
say this real quick. Stanton was
Yeah,
not pinch ran for. He was on the bases, so maybe he wouldn't have scored. But I still think the bat and the
interesting.
ball is a higher percentage
Yeah,
of a
probably.
chance to do something with. But go ahead, make your
Probably
point.
right. Yeah. Just because you mentioned Giancarlo Stanton has been, having a good series and has been playing really well, and he has, to be fair. But if you had to take a guess who has a higher OPS right now, him or Aaron Judge, who would you guess?
I would probably guess him.
Okay. Well, Aaron Judge has a 783 OPS and Stanton's only at a 764 despite the 300 average. He's got like 3 extra base hits on the year. So
Right.
even him not really playing to the back of his baseball card. Yes, 300 average, that's what you want, but that's not necessarily who Stanton is. You would hope that with a 300 average, he's probably crushing the ball, mashing the ball, has multiple home runs, has multiple doubles, stuff like that. So even he really, as he is going, technically, right, he's getting hits, he's getting on base. His extra base hit power hasn't been there just yet. So you're just kind of missing a little extra base hits from Judge. You're missing a little extra base hits from Stanton. I feel like Bellinger still really hasn't locked in on that either. Ben Rice has been really the only one giving you consistent slug. So just once those guys get going, I think you're going to see a lot more, because if he could pair a close to a 300 average with the slugging that we're used to, I mean, that would be incredibly valuable. And then once Judge starts to get going a little bit more, Bellinger, obviously, Grisham at the top of the lineup has been kind of slumpy. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that just aren't clicking right yet, and I think it's really magnifying how bad the bottom of the order is because of it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get to game 2 because, in my opinion, this was the most jarring, damning game, whatever word you want to use,
Yeah,
of the series. And again, all 3 games are losses, but there are some that stick out like sore thumbs compared to the other 2. This one was a 5-4 final in extras. You had Max Fried go 8 innings in a no decision outing. I mean, 8 innings, 94 pitches, and he couldn't even get a win. I feel bad for Max Fried. I really do. No walks. Just he gave up 6 hits, 3 runs, and 8 innings of work. The Yankees had a lead late in the game, 3-2. They give that up. Then they had the 4-3 lead going into the bottom of the 10th. They give that up. So it was a game that they could have won if they just had the effective pitching. Then you had the Jazz misplay and the comments afterwards, which we'll get to. But I feel like this was the most damning game for the Yankees in the series.
yeah. When you're on a losing streak, and at this point it was 3 games going into this game, these losses are the worst. You'd almost just rather lose, the same way you lost the day before, instead of taking the lead twice and then blowing both of those games, especially because the leads came from the same guy in the bottom of the order that has struggled in Jose Caballero. We were like, oh, revenge series for Jose Caballero. He's returning to Tampa Bay. And he gets 2 like huge hits, and you're like, okay, finally, like we got a clutch hit, like let's roll, and then they give it up again. And yeah, if you feel bad for Max Fried going 8 innings and not getting a win, think about his buddy Ryan Weathers, who did the same thing like 2 days before and
Yep.
let up even less runs and didn't get a win. So that's now 2 Yankees pitchers that have completed the 8th inning in 15 games, and we didn't win either of those games. That's like really hard to imagine. I don't know how many more 8 inning outings we're going to have all season, let alone 2 in like a couple of weeks, and we lost both of them. So that kind of stinks. This was kind of my idea when I picked Max Fried as the MVP of the series, which who knows, I might do. I have to look more in depth, but I just had a feeling that Luis Hill was probably going to come out slow in game 1. And with the Yankees not really hitting right now, it felt like even if the Rays scored 4 or 5 runs, they were probably going to win that game, which I very much thought that they could do against Luis Hill. So I took Max Fried in a spot as the stopper, and he came through, obviously giving you 8 innings. Now, 3 runs, I mean, that's not his best work, but 8 innings, 3 runs, you take that all the time, especially with this Yankees offense. So just to see that, you see a great start, and then you're like, oh my God, Caballero, we took the lead. Yes, Caballero, we took the lead again. And then they still blow it with some small ball and some mishaps in the extra innings. And now I believe since 2023, when the ghost runner rule was implemented in extra innings, the Yankees are 9-17, which I think is a bottom 3 record in baseball on the road in those extra inning road games. And I think they are the best in the league at home. So they've been like top of the league in extra innings when they're home and bottom of the league in extra innings when they're on the road. So that stayed pretty constant the last 3 years.
And this was a game too where the bottom of the order from Jazz to McMahon, they got 5 hits, 5 of the 8
Right.
Yankee hits. So
Yeah.
this was a game in which the bottom of the order was hitting the ball. You mentioned Caballero getting big hits in big spots, giving the Yankees both their leads in this game in the 8th and the 10th. And you look at the top guys in Grisham and Judge, they both got 2 walks, but 0 for 3. So the inability to put the ball in play and get on base and potentially drive some of those guys in, I understand sometimes passing the baton to the next guy, and I made that point earlier just about Ahmed Rosario and getting on base and getting the ball, hitting the ball, passing it on to the next guy. But this is what we've been talking about. The Judge just not getting to where he needs to be, hitting the ball in big spots, getting hits. It just was a tough game overall. And the biggest thing to me was the Jazz stuff afterwards, right? I mean, the play itself was a little difficult, because it was interesting. They had Bellinger in the infield. They had 5 infielders. They had him, Rice, and Jazz on the right side. So go figure. They hit it to the right side. We had 3 infielders and still couldn't make a play, right? The play was a little unconventional. It took a high bounce over Bellinger's glove, and Jazz kind of had to lunge forward to grab it. And, we can live with guys not making every single play. Like, that was not an easy play. But it's the comments, Andrew, after the game that have me concerned, because he's now asking reporters, like, hey, would the run have counted if I had thrown to first and then we went to second for the second out, like, of a double play? And then you couple that with his excuse about it being cold, and that's why he's not playing to the best of his ability. And this is within a week or 2 span. This is not a guy who's in a contract year, Andrew. This is not what you want to be seeing April 13th.
Yeah, a guy that claimed that he's good enough to go 50-50. I saw a video of him that was like, stay quiet until you see a better player than Jazz Chisholm. He stayed quiet the whole video, and they showed the best of the best in the video, right? So this is a guy with a lot of confidence, and like rightly so, because when he's on, he's like one of the most fun and exciting and one of the better players in the league. But yeah, he just has these mishaps. And as for the comments that he made after the game, just feels like he almost needs to just like stop himself at times, because when he first started what he was talking about, like, he got it right. He was like, yeah, I was going to do that. I was going to do this, and it was going to be fine. And then he like just kept kind of raveling, and like he just let his mind wander, and he was kind of speaking out loud, and he just, said that stuff. And it's kind of like, that's not a good look, dude. And especially because, and I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but the play before, or a couple plays before that, there was a bunt that everybody crashed on, and Bednar ended up throwing home because Jazz didn't cover first base. So the Yankees again get no outs there. I think that was the run that tied the game. So then you have that. Now, I do think, to Jazz's credit, that would have been a pretty tough play to make. I mean, it looks easy, like he's just going to scoop it, tag, and go to first. Like, who knows what Yandy Diaz does? Does he just immediately run back to first, waste time, wait for that run to get across? So we don't know what actually happens if he does field that ball cleanly, but it seemed like a perfect opportunity to clean up the mistake he just made with the bunt and get into. I mean, that would have been an electrifying play. Dylan and I were watching that game together. We would have jumped off the couch at that play. Like, it just felt like it felt like we were down in the dumps, and we kind of got handed a gift, and we just didn't come through. And then, I'm upstairs doing whatever, and I see those comments come across my phone, and that was not fun either. So it's not what you want to see. He has these tendencies where he doesn't play well, and he has these mental lapses, but then when he's on, and he's one of the better players. So it's just frustrating being at the lower end of that right now.
Yeah, and that play, for sure, he had the opportunity to right the wrong of not covering first base. Now, would he have gotten, and I forget who bunted the ball, but in that position where you're talking about that play, I don't know if they would have gotten that out, just because it was not the easiest of throws to first for Bednar, but just the mental lapses, not being where you're supposed to be. We're seeing it with Lindor, with the Mets in certain spots. It's just some mental lapses here and there. Like, these are players that have been playing these positions for forever. Like, second base is his position. He played third base when he came here because they had Gleyber Torres. They let Gleyber Torres walk in free agency because they had Jazz Chisholm, and they moved him to second to his natural position. And he's asking reporters how double plays work, like, in certain scenarios. Baseball is a game in which you're thinking of the scenarios in your head, so that way when you get the ball, you know what you're doing, and you know what the result would be, right? You have to be thinking, okay, if I get the ball here, I'm tagging Diaz and I'm throwing to first. Or If it's more to my right, I'm going immediately to second. Like, you have to know where you're going with the ball if it's hit to you, right? And maybe he knew where he was going with it, but he didn't know what the result was going to be. He questioned it. So maybe he just has to hold his tongue. But again, that's concerning to me that's even a thought. I feel like that should be a given. Like, you should know, okay, if I throw to first and then they throw to second, run would it count or not, right? It just, from a guy who's going to be making big money next year with a big contract, whether it's with the Yankees or another team, I feel like for my return on investment, if I'm an owner, I want my second baseman to know how baseball works in certain situations, and I can count on you in big spots to get the ball and know where to go with it. So it was concerning for me. And again, that's the reason why this is the biggest loss of the game, because of just the optics of how this looks for Jazz. Because we both agree that he's an awesome player. When he's on, he's on. He's an electrifying guy that can juice a lineup. But you just can't have these mental lapses on the field and then have a mental lapse in the locker room afterwards with the media, where they will keep that microphone recording until you stop moving your lips. They don't care what you say. Yeah. So you have to be aware of what you're saying, who you're saying it to. And, especially the Yankees, if you're on the Yankees, everyone's going to figure out what you said. So it's one of those spots where you just have to, right, I think you're right, just kind of watch what you're saying and just sometimes don't admit the truth, keep it to yourself.
And in the age of social media, I'm not saying that this wasn't a bad quote. It obviously was, but everything gets, overplayed, overhyped, right? So you got to really be careful with what you're saying. And I think one thing that Jazz has said, I think it was last year, was that he's a better player when he plays at 70%. And I think he's playing a little too close to 100% right now. I think he's swinging too hard. I think he's trying a little too hard, trying to do too much, trying to do everything. Just simplify it a little bit, simplify that swing a little bit, play at 70%. And he's going to be a good player for us this year. I have no doubts about it, or no doubts just yet. But yeah, I was really excited about a Jazz Chisholm in a contract year, because if he has that edge, and like he could, not saying he's going to go 50-50, but he's a guy with enough power and enough speed that if you give him enough time and enough games, like, he could get close to that number. So I'm hoping that now he kind of flips the switch a little bit, underdog mentality, and gets it going, because that's another guy. You mentioned Judge, and you mentioned Stanton, you mentioned Bellinger. Like, that's another guy that still really hasn't gotten going overall.
Speaking of Judge, we'll go to game 3, where he had the 2-run shot in the 9th inning to make it 5-4. But before that, it was not really, it was a close game, but it just, again, it felt like the Yankees weren't really in it. They couldn't get a whole lot of offense going. Schlittler had another, he had a good outing, let's be honest. He just didn't have his first 2 outings. It's hard to replicate that 4 starts in a row, right? The third game, he kind of was similar. I would say the third start was very similar to this start. 5 innings where you saw the team get hits and they were able to score runs, but his strikeout numbers were still great. And it was his first walk allowed of the year through 4 starts, and it was just 1. It's not like he had 4 in this game. So that's still pretty incredible that he just seemingly, there goes my camera. Sorry about that. It just seemingly looks like he just has control of the zone, which is always good to see. Now, obviously, 7 hits is not what you want to see. But again, this is another pitching performance where I felt it was good enough for the Yankees, again, to get a win. And you're facing Rasmussen, who's a good pitcher. But again, you're not facing Shane McClanahan. You're not facing the ace of the team. This should have been a spot where the offense did a little bit better than they did.
I think you could argue Drew Rasmussen is the ace of the team, just because I don't know if McClanahan has gotten back to that point that he was at pre-injury. But irregardless, yeah, you should be able to hit a guy like this. I do think Drew Rasmussen was probably the best pitcher that they saw in the series. So if I knew going into the series they were going to be facing him, I might have jotted that down as a loss. Who knows? But yeah, Cam Schlittler's at 22 strikeouts and 1 walk on the season. Like, that's just an insane number. And yeah, a little bit too many hits, a little bit too many guys on base against him. But the thing I saw that I liked is his velo was back up. Obviously, against the A's, his velo was down. And now, thankfully, we could just say that it was a cold game and the velo was down. His velo was back up. It was ready to go. It was pumping. So, yeah, a little too many hits. But, like, hey, like, when is the offense going to pick up the pitching? Like, we're not going to have these starts where we go 6 innings, 1 run, 7 innings, 2 runs, 8 innings, 3 runs. It's not going to happen all the time. We're going to need games where the pitching is not going to be good. We know we're going to get those. So we need games where the offense is going to be really, really good to pick them up. And that was a spot for them to do this. They could have done that last week, too, when he went 5 innings, 3 runs against the A's. So, yeah, just not exactly what you wanted to see. Feels like Ben Rice again had to be the one to jumpstart the Yankees a little bit, and they thought it was a homer at first, but he fell just short of that yellow line in right field, so it turned into a double. But yeah, they didn't really get it going again until that ninth inning, and then again they did give themselves a shot to win. I mentioned earlier that Ahmed Rosario hit that could have very well tied the game at the end, just really just short of the wall, I think, or if not off the wall, I can't remember right away. But yeah, just so close yet again, but so far.
Yeah, and the thing too, one hit off Rasmussen, and this is kind of what we talked about against Steven Matz in game one. And you're right, Rasmussen out of the three guys they faced is the best one for sure. But one hit through 6 innings, and he only went 76 innings pitches. Had this been another team, maybe coached by a more old school pitcher, he would have gone 7 or 8 innings in this game, finished with 100 pitches, and it may have looked a lot worse. Like it might have been 8 innings, 2 hits, and like 9 strikeouts. So I think the Yankees were fortunate enough that Kevin Cash kind of has a short leash when it comes to pitching, just because of the analytics of it all. But it just seemingly looked like he just had the Yankees number. They could not get anything going, and it's hard when your offense is not doing anything when Tampa gets out to a 3-0 lead in the first 2 innings, and then you're all of a sudden you're behind 3 runs and you can't even muster up multiple hits off of a guy through 6. So it was a tough spot for the Yankees to be in. I liked how Schlittler kind of hunkered down after the slow start, kept the Yankees in the game if there were to be a gradual comeback through the later innings of Rasmussen's start. But again, the theme is just that the Yankees, they're doing well, it seems, against the bullpens of these teams. It's just too little too late. You can't rely on 3-run comebacks in the 9th inning and to try and just stockpile it all in that 9th inning. You have to be able to chip away earlier on in games. You have to be able to build it up and get yourself in a position where maybe you only need 1 run in the 9th and not like 3. So again, it is just April 13th, and it's 15 games through. The Yankees 8-7, the Rays are 8-7. But we talked about how important these division games are when it comes to season's end. Like if the Rays and the Yankees have the same number of wins at year's end, the Yankees have such an uphill climb in front of them to just be able to beat the Rays going forward. They're already down 3 in that spot. They now need to make up that spot and then some. So they put themselves in a tough spot going forward if the Rays were to come down to a potential wild card spot with the Yankees. And maybe it becomes like last year with the Red Sox, if you remember, like it comes down to home field, right? And so that's very important. It could
100%.
come down to that if the Rays continue to play well down the stretch of the season. So
Yeah, and something I'm going to be looking for this week, because we've mentioned it a couple of times, is they got to start beating up on the starting pitching. They have to start beating up on the starting pitching. You mentioned 1 hit against Drew Rasmussen. The most hits they had in this series against the starting pitcher was 5 against Nick Martinez in the middle game on Saturday. They had 2 hits against Steven Matz, like you mentioned before. They had 1 hit the day before against Jeffrey Springs when they got shut out 1-0. They had 4 hits against Luis Severino. 2 of those came in the first inning of the game. And then they had 2 hits, I think, against Aaron Savale in 5 innings in that first game of the A series. So they got to start pounding starting pitching. That's usually what the Yankees are good at. And one thing that they have been doing is working counts, to their credit. They've been still walking a lot, which is nice to see. When you're in a slump, you could still get on base. But usually they're able to walk, and then those walks lead to hits, and then those hits lead to relievers in the game a lot earlier than they probably should be. So that's what the Yankees need to get back to. The Angels, who are going to have a 4-game set against, don't have the best starting pitching in the world. I'd like to see a couple of those games where starters are out in the 3rd, 4th inning, because we really just pounded them, and we haven't seen that so far, and that's not like the Yankees.
Let's go to the YouTube chat. We got a couple of chats in here. Hey, Mom, what's up? Baseball 101. How many outs are there, and what do I do with the ball if it comes to me? It's exactly what we said before. You have to know if the ball is hit to you, where you're going with it, and the situation that you're in. And that's unacceptable that he didn't know if he had gone to first and then the second, that would have been a double play if it would have kept the run from scoring or not. Your multi-million-dollar salaried second baseman needs to know what the hell is going on. Moot 97, what's up, Matt? Jazz Chisholm is my favorite player. He's so good. All right, this guy's just trying to rage bait. I'm gonna take that down right now. But yeah, listen, we all know Jazz is a great player, but it's just you have to be able to not have these lapses, and then don't reveal that you're having these lapses either. Like it'd be one thing if you didn't make the play. Just don't say like Don't ask questions like, would it have counted? Would it have not counted? Just say, listen, I was going to go to first. We were going to go to second, get the tag. That was my thought in the moment because I bobbled the ball. I didn't think I had time to tag Yandy. Just come up with something. Don't say that. That's the last thing we'll say about Jazz and all that. So we'll get to the series MVP, Andrew.
Sure.
Now, I took the liberty in assuming of your pick, but I will let you go first for who your actual MVP was of the series. You did pick Max Fried. I took the liberty on us both saying Max Fried, but you are more than welcome to choose a different answer because I felt as if he had the best individual performance.
Do I still get the point if you pick Max Fried and I pick somebody else?
No. This is just
because I predicted Max Fried.
Do you see the records? I have updated them.
Oh,
you
yes.
are 2-2.
Okay,
I'm 0-4. So I'm counting this as a win for you, assuming you were to go Max Fried. But if you were to pick somebody else, then it would be a loss. Technically.
For me, it would be a loss if I pick somebody else. You picked them. If you pick
I guess it would count as a win. Yeah, all right. So the win is yours regardless.
Well, okay, so fine. If it's my win regardless, then I'd like to highlight somebody else, and it's going to be Ben Rice again. Who did he sit in game 1? No, he sat in game 2. No, he did sit in game 1.
He sat in game 1 and then hit the pinch hit home run.
Yes, he sat in game 1 and then hit the pinch hit home run. He's been the only really electrifying thing about the offense. The only guy that you could really point to that's been like, okay, that guy's got it going. That guy's red hot. And I hope that when Judge and Stanton eventually get to the form that we're used to, that doesn't trail off a little bit, him being the only guy hitting and teams really knowing that. Now, obviously, they're not like pitching to Judge and not pitching to Rice. Obviously, they're still going to try to avoid Judge as much as possible because they know what he has. But when Judge and Stanton are going, I'd like to see how Rice performs because Rice in that case is going to be the guy that they need to get out. They're not going to want to pitch to Judge and Stanton when they're hot. So I think another really, really good series for him. He just misses a second home run in the series, as I mentioned before, by like 3 inches. Did the whole jog around the bases. I think if you make a guy go all around the bases, you should just give him the home run at least because that was like he went all around the bases. He did the whole dugout thing. He's high-fiving everybody, and then he's running back to second base because it was a double. So that was a little bit, And then when Judge hits the home run, Rice was the guy on base before him, got a hit. That Judge hit the home run, made it a close game in the final game. So I'll give it to Ben Rice only because I know you're giving it to Max Fried. I think it's worth highlighting a couple players in the series. But I think another interesting thing that they did, and I'm hoping to kind of see this going forward, they batted Ben Rice second in game 3 and moved Judge down to 3. A more consistent guy maybe to get on base, another guy, another chance, another base runner to get on base in front of Judge. That's what we saw. The last time we saw Judge hitting 3 consistently was when Juan Soto was there, ironically, another guy that wears number 22 or wore number 22 for the Yankees. So I'm interested to see if they keep batting Ben Rice second. I think that's a nice little switch if they decide to go with that full time.
Yeah, and I think because of how well Ben Rice is playing, I do think that that's a good spot to put Ben Rice. I don't mind putting him in front of Judge, and maybe that helps Judge out late, kind of just to get back into the swing of things. You never know how that kind of shapes up. Maybe he starts to get more pitching. You get guys on base sooner. You can't really afford to load the bases per se, so maybe he gets some more pitches to hit. So I said I was going to choose Max Fried as the MVP, and I think that while I acknowledge Ben Rice and what he did in the series, to your point, I just think that for what Max Fried is and what he's known for, coming into this game as the stopper of the starter, which if you don't know what that means, if you're watching, it just means someone that follows a loss, comes in and shuts it down and just stops it from being 2 losses in a row, and you get the win. And I know they didn't win this game, but it was not to his fault. He went 8 innings, pitched 94 pitches, 3-run baseball. So that was like what you want to see from your stopper, from your ace of the rotation in a series when you lost the first game and then you needed an all-out performance in the second game to try and get the second game in the series. It wasn't enough because the bats let him down, but he went 8 innings. So I feel like that was the MVP moment. He did what he was supposed to do. He did as advertised. It just was not enough from an offensive standpoint for the Yankees. All right, so let's look at the Angels series. That starts up tonight, actually.
Tonight, yep.
It's a 4-game series, so a loaded week for the Yankees as they They got to play 4 against the Angels and then 3 weekend games against the Royals. And then they finally have that off day next Monday, a week from today. So it's been a long track for the Yankees. They have not had an off day since last Monday, the April 6th. So it's
13-game
almost
stretch.
2 weeks on straight of baseball. So buckle up, folks. So let's preview the Angels series. The probable starters are a bit inconclusive. We don't know exactly who's going to start for the Angels in the back 2 games as of right now. I mean, we can make our predictions, but what we do know, according to the MLB app, is that it'll be Kikuchi for game 1 and Detmers for game 2. For the Yankees, the probable starters: Warren game 1, Weathers game 2, Heel game 3, and Fried game 4. So that would be the probable starters for this series. The Angels are 8-8 heading into this series, and it's been mainly because Jorge Soler has been one of the hottest hitters in baseball as of today. I saw he had, I believe, a 3 or a 4 game streak of home runs. He was involved with a fight altercation with the Braves not too long ago. So I think, like, when does that suspension kick in? Because he has not missed a game yet. I know he was appealing the suspension. The MLB gave him 7 games. The reason I bring that up is, could it potentially start at some point this series? That's my
I
question.
think it can. I don't know. Is the appeal over? I guess it's not over if he's still playing. I know, which this is like another discussion, kind of get off topic. I know Reynaldo Lopez was also suspended for that same thing, but he appealed and like now he's suspended for 5 games. But since he's a pitcher, like 5 regular games, that counts as 5 games, even though he wouldn't have been playing in those 5 games.
Correct.
That still counts as 5, which is just, I mean,
That's
what's
garbage.
the point of the suspension? But yeah, I think it might be still under an appeal process. If he's still playing and we haven't heard the suspension has been lifted, then yeah, it's still under appeal. So that appeal could, that decision could drop. Yeah, probably this week will happen. So we'll see. I imagine he still gets suspended. I mean, he initiated that fight really and was the one to throw the first punch. So I can't imagine he gets a clean slate. So yeah, maybe Jorge Soler misses a couple games this series, which would be big. I do like the Yankees rotation in this series. I mean, the only one you're missing really is Schlittler. I have a lot of faith in these guys. I mean, I'd rather play Schlittler with Luis Hill, I think, just because he's not had the most run and we don't really know where he's at. But yeah, the Angels, not a terrible team. The Yankees get to come back home, which is nice. We've known to like kind of beat up on the Angels a little bit in years past. Mike Trout is always a fun thing to see at Yankee Stadium. So yeah, just it's a fun series. It's part of the gauntlet. I mean, I said 13 games in a row. I think last episode I tried to look ahead at the schedule at once and I got it wrong. And I said that they play the Red Sox after the Angels. So I won't look ahead again. I don't usually do that. But yeah, the Angels and then the Royals. I don't think the Angels are going to be a playoff team. Who knows? The Royals might be. This is a time to maybe get 6-1 stretch here, 5-2. I'll take a 5-2. Give me a 5-2 stretch in these next 7 games, and I'll be very happy. I'll be really, really happy if they just start beating up on starting pitching, like I mentioned. So let's aim for 5-2. Obviously, 6-1, 7-0. I'd be ecstatic, but let's just aim for winning both series. Let's go 3 of 4 against the Angels, and then 2 of 3 against the Royals. I think that's the simplest way to do it.
Yeah, the Angels coming off a series win at Cincinnati. They won that 2 out of 3, so they are still on the road. The Angels are. Yeah, I mean, listen, for a team like the Yankees that are slumping right now, I think the goal is just to get to correct some of the wrongs that we've been seeing in the last couple of games. So, like you're saying, being able to hit off of the subpar starting pitching for some of these teams and just be able to tack on some runs early, get traffic early, get those hits, get Judge going, right? We want to start. Oops, sorry about that. We want to seeing Stanton get some extra base hits too, because while we love seeing him hit 120-mile-per-hour line drives to left field that are singles, we also want to see him at his full effect, where he's hitting balls in the gap, hitting balls over the fence, which is what he's known to do. So I think coupling those two with how Rice has been playing, hopefully he can stay hot. Maybe we might get another Ahmed Rosario series because he's facing 2 lefties to start the series with Kikuchi and Detmers. Maybe you get another big Stanton night, right? Like we're kind of talking about with those 2 lefties to start the series. So just kind of seeing little wins there. And I don't think you're going to see McMahon for these first 2 games either due to the lefties. So this really is a big time for Ahmed to put together 2 good games in a row, assuming he gets the nod in both games at third. So there are some things to look at that obviously we want wins, right? as Yankee fans, but there are little things that we can hone in on that even if they don't result in wins, if individual performances are starting to stand out more and more, that at least can go a long way in the early goings. You start to figure out where you want to go with certain guys, where you want them to be in certain places on this lineup. So I am hopeful that they go 5-2 because again, they or better because the Angels and the Royals are not great. But again, for a team that's slumping, Andrew, anything can go wrong. I mean, we just saw the A's sweep both the Yankees and the Mets because of how bad their offenses were.
Yeah.
So when your offense is going through this rough patch that they're going through, unfortunately, they might be matchup proof. Like Kikuchi might just have a 5-inning game with 3 hits and 5 strikeouts, 1 run. So it really just depends on how the bats will look tonight going forward throughout the series and into this weekend. Maybe it's the case that they just need an off day, and I hate to say it, but maybe like this week and then through the weekend, the offense continues to struggle, and then they get that reset day next Monday, and then they kind of flip the switch. Maybe they just need an off day. I don't really know how
Yeah.
this works, but it could be that too. They just need a day away from it, but we'll see.
It's interesting. I'm looking at the list of players here and how they perform against Kikuchi. It's really nothing to write home about. The only guy with more than 10 at bats that's really been smoking him is Jose Caballero. Judge has almost 30 at bats. He's batting 200 against him. Doesn't have an 805 OPS, so has a couple homers against him. So not a lot of guys that are really pounding him. Grisham has 7 at bats and has like an 800 OPS. But yeah, just so I don't know. Yeah, like to your point, I mean, if a team is slumping, right, you're right. They are kind of matchup proof. Whoever you really throw out there is probably going to perform well. I do think 2 lefties back to back is a good chance to get on the board. But we saw a lefty in Steven Matz, and I was really excited about that game because they brought in a bunch of guys that could really pound lefties, and they just did not do that. So I don't know what we're going to get. Kikuchi kind of has the number of some of our top guys in Stanton and Judge, or more the number than their career average, which suggests. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I'm usually excited for the lefties, but after what they did with Steven Matz, I'm not so sure.
So before we get to the series MVP of our predictions, what I wanted to do last video that I forgot to do was to go over the ABS for the incoming series, the upcoming team, I should say. And I think make this a segment for every new series going forward, because I think this is important to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah.
With how baseball has been. So we'll start with the Angels. I kind of just did an overview, a basic overview of how many times they've challenged from batting and pitching, and then how well they've done percentage-wise when they do challenge. So for the A's, they come into this series with 17 challenge attempts batting, which ranks 7th in attempts, and then they have 14 pitching, which ranks tied for 15th. Batting, they're 5 for 17, 29%. That's how, they're so 28th in the league. So they're not very good at challenging when it comes to the hitting side of things. But when it comes to pitching, they're pretty solid. 71%, that ranks 6th in the league. They're 10 for 14. So, and then you look at the Yankees, they are among one of the top teams in attempts, Andrew. 23 batting attempts. That ranks 2nd. I think it's the Twins that are ahead of them. They have 10 pitching, 28th. But to Austin Wells' credit, they're 8 for 10 when they challenge pitches. So that ranks 3rd at 80%. And again, the alarming number, 10 for 23 for the Yankees batting wise, ranking 20th in the league at 43%. So you could see both these teams from the batting side, not really putting it together, challenging. And then from pitching with the catcher, I assume making most of the challenges for both teams, they seemingly have that kind of figured out.
Yeah, I would hope so for the catching side that continues, because if the pitchers start doing it, it's going to get out of hand. But I do think the minors have suggested that this is kind of going to shake out to almost 50-50 at the end of the year. Like 50% of them are going to go your way, 50% of them are not going to go your way, which I think is a good number. I do think if like the hitters and the catchers both dominated this ABS, then I think it would really be like a problem, and you would really need kind of just robot umps all the time, right? Because if you're getting so many calls wrong and batters and catchers are able to see it, like obviously that's a whole nother problem in itself. But yeah, interesting to see the numbers there for the Angels. Not good at the plate. I think that's kind of the consistency. Not the consistency. I think that's kind of the constant in the league. I think a lot of teams are really, really good or really, really clean at challenging pitches from the defensive side, whether that be pitching or catching, majority of it catching, and kind of struggling at the plate a little bit. We see like hesitations a lot too, players like in big spots don't know whether the challenge, they don't feel that confident. I know Rice the other day got called for a challenge, even though he didn't even tap his helmet, but he kind of like hesitated like he was going to tap his
I was
helmet
going to
and
ask you about
complained
that.
about that. But yeah, so it is interesting to see all the ABS stats. I'm curious to see where it shakes out at the end of the year. But yeah, so far catching dominating that category.
Yeah, so far, and for both teams too. You know, it's not like
Yeah.
one of them is really good at challenging hitting, pitching, challenging pitches from the batter's box. Both teams struggling in that department. All right, let's get to the series MVP for the Angels series. Again, it is a 4-game set. We do know 2 of the 4 games who will be pitching for the Angels for certain. It'll be Kikuchi and Reed Detmers the first 2 games. Then the last 2 are kind of up in the air as of right now. So maybe that'll affect by Wednesday or Thursday who the MVP will be, depending on those matchups. Again, you picked Max Fried last week or last episode. I agreed that Max Fried was the MVP of the series, so I gave you the win there. You're 2-2 on the year. I'm 0-4. I have yet to pick a correct one. I hope to steer the ship in the right direction this time around. You went first last time, so I'm going to go first this time. And we talked at length about the lefties being the first 2 guys. And given that that's really the information that we have to go off as of right now, I concur with Matt in the comments. I think this is an obvious Stanton MVP for the series. I think we start to see the extra base hits come into play. That's what's been lacking in his game. And even if it doesn't, it seems that he's good for at least a single or 2 a game, which I think will help build my case by the series end if he's on base once or twice a game for 4 games or for even 3 games. And if he hits a home run or 2 in the first couple games against both those lefties and takes advantage of that, I think that Stanton makes a pretty good case for the MVP. So I don't know what to predict in terms of stats over 4 games. I don't know if he'll play all 4, if he'll play 3. But what I do know is that there's a very high percentage chance he'll play the first 2 due to it being both lefties for the Angels. I think that's where he makes his case for MVP. And then the last 2 games are kind of up in the air. But I think he does make a really good case in those first 2 games.
Yeah, when I saw that comment going through, I was like, oh, I kind of agree with that. I hope I can pick him. But, obviously Dylan gets to go first, so he steals that from me. Now, I'm going to go in a different direction with the lefties. I am going to lean on the lefties a little bit. And I'm pretty sure they do have another lefty in that rotation that might sneak in at the end. So we could possibly get 3 lefties in the series. So I will go a different direction, though. You think I'd pick a righty. I'm going to pick a lefty, and one that's like really, really good against lefties. I'm going to pick Cody Bellinger. I saw him in game 2, had 2 hits. I really liked his at-bats in game 3 as well. Only snuck away with 1 hit, but I thought he was really, really good at the plate. I feel like he's going to get it going. And he's a guy, again, that I mentioned is really, really good against left-handed pitching. A long series for him to do that. A lot of at-bats against left-handers, should get about 6-7 at-bats against left-handed pitching this series. So I think it's going to go his way. He's back in the Bronx. I think a thing that really helps you is it's going to be warm this week. It's going to be really warm this week. It's going to be like in the 80s for every single one of these games.
Nice out today.
So the ball should be flying. I think that helps Stanton a lot get going. And I think that'll help Bellinger a lot in the short porch. So I'll go Cody Bellinger as my series MVP.
All right. And I'll tell you what, one more thing before we say so long to YouTube here. One of the things that we didn't mention in this series that helps the Yankees out tremendously is we're not going to have to face Jose Soriano. He pitched yesterday against the Reds, and he's been the best pitcher in baseball to start the year. 4-0, 0.33 ERA, 31 strikeouts, a .67 WHIP. Listen, I wish I was making that up. That's what it is. And he's pitched against the Reds, the Braves, the Cubs, and the Astros. And the Braves have been a pretty solid team this year. The Cubs, right? Solid team. I'll just take you through some of the starts. 6 innings. This was his first start of the year. 6 innings, 2 hits, 7 strikeouts, 4 walks against Houston. Then his next start against the Cubs, 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. And then the last 2 starts is where he really started to kick in. Against the Braves, 8 innings, 3 hits, just 1 run. It was a solo shot, no walks, 10 strikeouts. And then against the Reds, 7 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 10 strikeouts. So this is a guy the Yankees are avoiding in this series. And for a team that's slumping, I mean, we'll take it, right? You don't have to face a shoe-in 6+ inning starter that'll get close to 10 strikeouts and an outing. So that's another big advantage for the Yankees in this series. And it is a 4-game set. So you really got lucky that you're not facing Soriano in this series, most likely.
Yeah, I feel like people hear the name Jose Soriano and they're like, okay, like who really is that? Now, he hasn't had the best of seasons in the last couple of years, but he's made one thing constant. He's like an awesome ground ball guy. He gets ground balls at a rate like that nobody else does. He's top 5 in the league in that. I think he was number 1 last year in ground ball percentage. So that's a guy that it's nice to avoid, especially because this year now he's paired that with like a high strikeout percentage. Again, only I guess 3 starts in, like you mentioned. But yeah, he's a guy that
fourth
for sure to get the ball on the ground, and now he's able to pair that with striking guys out.
Yeah, look at that. First, and third. So and I'm sure that's counting relievers in that whip category. So it's just he's been very impressive. So the Yankees very fortunate to not have to face off
New York Lottery Plus
against him, to say the least. Well, that'll do it here for our coverage of the Rays series, the breakdown of the Rays series. Again, the Yankees got swept in Tampa Bay. They come back home to the Bronx to face off against the Los Angeles Angels, where hopefully they can muster up 3 wins. They don't have to face Jose Soriano, and then they have to play the Royals in a 3-game set starting on Friday going into Sunday, and then they get the off day next Monday. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of the Rays series. Do you agree with who we thought were the MVPs of that Rays series? Let us know if you agree with our MVP picks for this upcoming series against the Angels. And just let us know about Jazz's comments, what you think about all that and kind of how he's been playing over the course of the year. Let us know everything down in the comments down below. Follow us on our social media handles here. Again, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you later this week where we preview we break down the Angel series and we preview the Royal series. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Monday afternoon.